This entire script, from the first word to the last, must be a single, continuous block of text, following all the internal, structural, and length requirements. They got millions at Grandpa's funeral. My cousins, my aunts, my uncles, they were all standing there, dressed in their expensive black designer suits, sobbing crocodile tears, already calculating how many Ferraris they could buy with their share, and me. I got one single, crumpled plane ticket. That was it. My inheritance from the man who helped raise me, the man I loved more than anyone on this earth, was a one-way flight back to the tiny, forgettable town I'd moved away from a decade ago. I was standing in the marble hall of the most expensive funeral home in the state, holding that flimsy piece of paper, watching my extended family mourn their sudden wealth, when those 6 simple words changed my entire life. They were whispered to me, almost too quietly to hear, by a man I'd never seen before, a man who looked like he belonged on the cover of a finance magazine. Meet me tonight. The will is faked. To understand just how devastating that moment was, you have to know my story and the story of my grandfather, Arthur Sterling. Arthur wasn't just a rich man. He was the rich man in our family, the patriarch who built a massive, multi-million-dollar real estate empire from the ground up. He was a stern, brilliant, but profoundly fair man. After my parents tragically passed away when I was 12, Grandpa Arthur took me in. I wasn't just another grandchild. I was his ward, his shadow, his apprentice. I spent my teenage years in his library, not playing video games, but studying property law and investment strategies. He treated me like a son, and he always told me, "Ethan, you have the brains and the work ethic. This family's future is with you, not with those greedy hangers-on." He always referred to his 3 children, my Aunt Carol, Uncle Mark, and Aunt Denise, as the hangers-on, and honestly, he wasn't wrong. They were born into wealth, never worked a day, and lived their lives perpetually waiting for Grandpa to die so they could cash in. They visited him only on holidays, always bringing shallow compliments and thinly veiled requests for money. I was there every day, learning, working, and genuinely caring for him, especially during the last 5 years as his health failed. We talked daily about his estate, and he assured me multiple times that I would be the primary beneficiary, tasked with taking over and running the business responsibly. So, when he finally passed peacefully in his sleep 3 weeks ago, I was heartbroken, yes, but I was also prepared to step up and honor his legacy. That's what made the will reading such a shock. The lawyer, a slick man named Mr. Thompson, whom I'd never seen before Grandpa used a different firm for decades, gathered us all in his office. He read the document quickly, barely looking up. The entire estate, the corporations, the properties, the cash reserves, everything was split evenly between Carol, Mark, and Denise. 0 mention of me, except for the tiny addendum at the very end. To my grandson, Ethan, a plane ticket to return home. Home to him meant the place I'd grown up, a symbolic, patronizing gesture that suggested I needed to get a real life far away from his money. My greedy relatives couldn't hide their smirk. They looked like they'd won the lottery, which, in a way, they had. I stood up, stunned, numb, and furious. This wasn't Arthur Sterling's will. It fundamentally contradicted everything he stood for and everything he promised me. It made absolutely no sense. I tried to challenge the lawyer right there, but he simply handed me the plane ticket and told me the case was closed, the document signed, sealed, and legally binding. The family then proceeded to ostracize me completely, suggesting I was lucky to get anything at all. The very next day was the funeral. I felt utterly defeated, watching them perform their theatrical grief, knowing they'd stolen my life's work and my grandfather's promise. And that's when he appeared, the man in the sharp suit, leaning in close, delivering those faltering words, "Meet me tonight. The will is faked." My mind was a whirlwind. Was this a cruel joke, a scam? The man introduced himself only as Victor, an old colleague of Grandpa's, and pressed a business card into my hand with an address scribbled on the back. It was an address for a discreet office building downtown. Everything told me to walk away, but the sheer desperation and the certainty that I had been cheated drove me to keep the card. That night I went. Victor was waiting. He wasn't a lawyer or a banker. He was a private investigator, a specialist in high-stakes corporate fraud and wills. He told me Grandpa had hired him 6 months ago, precisely because he suspected his children would try to contest or interfere with the real will after his death. Victor informed me that the initial lawyer, the real one my grandpa trusted, had been sidelined, and this Mr. Thompson was a puppet for Aunt Carol, the most calculating of the 3 siblings. The real will, Victor explained, was complex, involving trusts and the gradual transfer of the company to me, but it was legally sound and signed only 2 months before Grandpa passed. Crucially, Victor had the only copies of the real will, the original security footage of its signing, and proof that the document Mr. Thompson read was a crude forgery, but the will couldn't just be presented to the court. Thompson and my family had moved too fast. They'd already started liquidating certain assets. If I presented the evidence now, they would tie it up in court for years, draining the estate until nothing was left. Exactly what Grandpa wanted to prevent. Victor said we needed a coordinated, immediate, and utterly brutal response, something that would hit them where it hurt the most, their wallets, and force them to fold instantly. The plan he laid out was elaborate, dangerous, and brilliantly tailored for maximum impact. It was the moment of no return. I looked at the forged ticket in my hand, then at the multi-million-dollar corporation stolen from me, and the choice became clear. There was no way I was letting those greedy people walk away with my grandfather's legacy. So that's the situation I was in. The stakes couldn't have been higher. The entire future of my grandfather's company, justice for his last wishes, and my reputation against 3 wealthy, ruthless vultures. I had a legitimate legal case, but it was designed to be slow and draining, exactly what they wanted. Victor's plan offered a swift, decisive victory, but required me to cross every boundary of trust and discretion. Before I tell you what happened next, and how Victor and I executed a plan so cold it would make your blood run cold, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have played it safe, gone to the police, and waited years for the courts to sort out the mess? Or would you have gone for the immediate, high-risk, scorched earth option? Let me know, because the path I chose changed everything. The plan centered around 3 key assets, the 3 largest commercial properties, which my aunts and uncle were rushing to sell off to a shell company they owned to make the cash liquid before any legal challenge could stop them. Victor's intelligence network was flawless. We knew the exact time and place of the final signing, a notary's office in the city, 5 days after the funeral. The beauty of the fake will was that it was sloppy. It required the entire estate to be handled under the old, complex business structure, not the new streamlined trusts Grandpa had created for me. This left a massive, glaring vulnerability. Victor and I didn't challenge the sale. We didn't challenge the will. Instead, 2 days before the sale, Victor used his connections to flag a minor, long-forgotten zoning violation on just one of the 3 properties. A tiny clerical error from 20 years ago that Grandpa had fixed, but the old paperwork hadn't been fully updated in the county database. Because the siblings were operating the sale under the old corporate structure mentioned in the fake will, the sale had to be temporarily frozen by the city council until the zoning issue was resolved and inspected, a process that could take months. This minor issue didn't stop the sale outright, but it triggered a clause in their private agreement with the notary. If any one of the three major assets faced any unexpected legal encumbrance before the final transfer, the notary was legally obligated to halt the entire liquidation of all corporate cash reserves until the matter was settled. Suddenly, my aunts and uncle, who needed the cash instantly to pay off massive personal debts they had accumulated, found their millions frozen, held by the notary, entirely inaccessible. Their world stopped. They immediately pointed fingers at each other, convinced one had made a mistake. They were furious, but completely paralyzed. This was the perfect moment. Victor and I strolled into Mr. Thompson's office unannounced. Thompson was frantic, fielding angry calls from Carol and Mark. I put the real will, certified and notarized with Grandpa's actual lawyer, on his desk. Next to it, I placed a flash drive containing the authenticated security camera footage of Grandpa signing it, and Victor's detailed report proving the fraud. Thompson went pale. He knew he was facing disbarment and criminal charges. We didn't waste time on threats. I simply offered him a lifeline. He would immediately notify the three siblings that the real will had surfaced, confirm its authenticity, and tell them that if they fought it, the entire package of evidence, including his own role in the fraud and their attempt to conceal corporate funds, would be handed over to the state prosecutor, the IRS, and every major media outlet in the city. The consequence for them wouldn't be losing the inheritance. It would be prison and financial ruin. They folded in less than 4 hours. The terror of criminal charges and the exposure of their personal debts was too much. They signed documents agreeing to the immediate execution of the real will, transferring the entire estate to me, with a tiny, non-voting trust given to them, enough to cover their most basic expenses, but not enough to fund their reckless lifestyles. As a final, delicious piece of revenge, I reinstated their father's rule. They were immediately banned from any board meetings or operational decisions forever. The only thing they kept was the burden of their own guilt. The money was mine, the company was mine, and Grandpa's legacy was safe. The aftermath was quiet, satisfying, and absolute. I never saw the three of them again, though I heard they had to drastically downsize their lives. Victor became my permanent legal and security consultant. I returned to the company, took my rightful place as CEO, and spent the next year fulfilling my grandfather's vision, proving that the man who got a single plane ticket was the only one fit to fly the whole company. It's been 3 years now. The company is thriving, and I finally feel peace knowing I honored the only man who ever truly cared for me. I still keep that crumpled plane ticket in my desk drawer, not as a reminder of what I lost, but as a monument to how close I came to defeat. It reminds me that sometimes justice isn't found in a slow courtroom, but in a moment of decisive, calculated action. So that's the end of my story, a testament to money, blood, betrayal ***. I hope this offered some insight into the dark side of wealth and the true price of family greed. Like this video if you were on my side in this incredible situation. Subscribe for more stories like this, where the meek fight back against the powerful. And please, share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. Did I go too far? Or did they get exactly what they deserved? I'll see you all in the next story.